This tutorial is going to talk us through the arrays assignment number 3, and I've already created an Eclipse project, but a lot of times what I do is I copy this whole screen or this whole description and I move it over to the project so then I have it to work with. When we start a new project in Eclipse, I know a lot of you aren't using Eclipse, so I'm just going to go ahead and show this again. We just create a Java project. This project is our arrays assignment 3, and I'll just do arrays assignment 3, or just arrays practice, because then I can put more than one thing in the folder. And it's going to use my default location. It does not like something because I already have a project named that, so I'll do fall 2018. So I have, hopefully I have a unique project name. We click finish, and then we should have our folder with fall 2018. In our source folder, we want to create a new Java class. I can use this shortcut button. I'm going to name this one arrays number 3 because it's assignment number 3, or we could call it it's arrays random numbers, whatever you want to name it. I'm just going to do arrays num3. I am going to create a main class here, and now we have our project to work with. As always, you should up here put in a few comments, including your name and the date, or at least like fall 2018, and this is AP Comp Sci as a starting. Now, the first thing that we did, or like as I said before, I often will copy and paste that code over. So I copied the description over, and I'm going to then just comment it out. I do that so I don't have to scroll back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then it also gives me a way to kind of track what else I need to get done. Meaning the following. If I scroll back up, the first thing that they want us to do is to generate a random number between 0 and 50. So if I'm going to generate a random number between 0 and 50, it does say, and that if you do the GUI, I'm not going to do the GUI right now. So I'm just working on this right here. Okay, and excuse me. And as I work through, for example, I don't need this line or sentence anymore, so I'm just going to delete that out. So, to create random numbers, there's a couple different ways that we can do this in Java. If I don't want to import anything, I can just use the math.random class, and so I would do something like the following. Int random for my random number equals, and I would use math.random. Math.random is going to create a random number between 0 and 1. So then I need to offset that by multiplying by my range of numbers that I want, and then a starting value. Now, there's a couple of things that happens here. Math.random returns a double, so if I multiply it by 50 right here, that's also going to be a double. And then when I and so I'm going to need to cast this whole entire thing as an integer in order to convert it to an integer. So it's going to look something like this. Then I can use or just print out, but there is often what I call an off by 1 error that occurs when you are using random numbers, and that's because this random number generator here will generate a range of 50 numbers, but it starts at 0. So if I were to just create a quick for loop to do some testing right here, and all I'm doing is printing out, or all I'm going to do is print out the number, the random number that's generated in order for me to test to see if I'm getting to the range of numbers that I want. So if I take and put this line of code right here inside this for loop, and I'm going to test that out just to print off what kind of numbers it's generating. So I'm looking for, this code would give me 50 numbers between 1 and 50. So I see 1 and there's a 50. So I am getting numbers between 1 and 50. That's 20 numbers between 1 and 50. So using a for loop just gives me a quick way to kind of verify that the data that I think I'm getting is what I'm actually getting. Okay, so another way, so that's using the math.random class. Then you do not have to import anything. I need a range of numbers from 51 to 100 for this project, so this number 1 is our starting value, so I'm just going to add 50 there. And then we're going to regenerate this or run this again. I'm going to hit the run button and see if we get numbers up to 100. I want numbers that start at 50 and I want to go up to 100. I am not seeing 50 in my list and I am not seeing 100. So we'll generate again and again here just to kind of see if we can get 50 to 100. And so I've got a 50. But I'm still not getting to my 100. And part of that, again, is because I'm starting at 50, but this value starts at 0 and goes to 49. So I need to offset just a little bit and make my numbers go 0 through 50, so then I can actually get to 100. So this is a line of code that will generate that random number between 50 and 100. That's one way to do random numbers. The other way is to use an import. And you can use the java.util.random class. And when you use the random class, the other way that you are going to then generate a random number is you actually create an object of type random. And so you are using the constructor in the random class. And then I'm going to create an integer variable, and they have several, you can see here they have several methods available to you. Next int, next boolean, next double, etc. I want integer values, so I'm going to choose next int. And if you looked at the arguments there, you can actually, if you follow the IntelliSense there, that pops up, you can do an integer and give me a bound. So if I type in my bound, let's say 50 for example, and then we will execute this code. I'm going to temporarily comment out these other two and copy this line of code inside the loop. And I'm wasting a little bit of processing power regenerating that num, random num, every time with the int, but that's okay for now. And we are going to output then just num. Now this gives me numbers. If I run that with the 50 here, that's giving me numbers 0 through, and it should be 49 to actually get to 50. I would type in 51 and execute this a few times to see or verify that I actually am getting to 51, or excuse me, to 50, because it's going to start generating numbers at 0. So if I take a look at my output, I'm looking to see that I can actually reach 50. And what I can actually do, because I want, remember, a number from, I need to use this algorithm a little bit. I need to add my starting value 50, and then I want a range of 51 numbers. So 50 plus 51 would actually be 101, but remember that we are including 0. So we want to look to see that we can actually get to 100. If we run this and we got a 100, and we also are starting at 50. So that's the second way that you can generate random numbers.